Jessica Koch with Jessica Koch Consulting with Profound Professionals interview series. Profound Professionals was started in 2018 with the premise of featuring leaders in the industry, authors, speakers, coaches, CEOs, and actually we are expanding this interview series globally. We've featured some people out of Canada. We're moving to UK and Australia, so keep watching Profound Professional shows. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of having with me Lisa Stearns. She is author, speaker, and founder of the Just One Thing podcast. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, thanks.
I would love it if you would share with us just a little bit about where you're from and just a little bit about you before we get into some of the deep information about your book and your company and all the other good things that we're going to talk about. Let's start with where you're from and a little bit about you.
Originally, I'm from New York. Oh shoot, I got a dinger there. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We are live and we're dinging.
We are live and we are dinging. Okay, I think I can fix that. Okay.
No worries.
Yes. So originally, I'm from New York. Now I live in the Baltimore, Washington area of the U.S. in Maryland.
What part of New York? My husband's from Long Island.
I'm from Rockland County, so the other side of the Tappan Zee Bridge.
Ah.
Yeah, so yep, my whole childhood there, and then moved here early years. Moved here early 20s with my husband for his work, and I've been here for 35 years, so a long time. This is definitely home more than my other home was home. I started my business. Is that the next question? Started my business.
Well, I mean, so you got settled in Baltimore at what point? When you go after college or during college or?
No, after I only have a year and a half of college. So it was met my husband at a camp for inner city kids in the Cleveland area. We were both camp counselors. I was the head of the water program, and we got married. We were engaged in 10 days and got married in 2 months, and been happily married for 41 years. Coming up on 41
holy
years.
Cow!
Yep.
Congratulations! 41 years of marriage. That is awesome. Yep. Man, talk about just running into the right person at the beginning of time.
Absolutely. Yes.
Lucky duck, right?
Yes. It was.
Others of us had to wait longer.
Yes, it was pretty magical, and whatever it was right because it stuck.
That's right.
So then I moved here with him after we got married. He got posted with the government, so we moved here from Ohio, and been here ever since. And I kind of did a lot of wandering. So my earlier part of my adult career, I did a lot of sales. I actually sold suits, which I loved. It was one of my favorite jobs.
Oh, cool.
I sold men's suits and really, really enjoyed that. But I owned a decorating business. I owned a decorating franchise.
I can see that. You have a flair for color and accessories. I can see the decorator in you. What else did you do?
Yes. I did childcare for a while. I taught a lot of classes for a while. Then I would say the middle part of my adult life, I homeschooled my boys.
Oh, cool.
And homeschooled them. It was not intentional. It happened my first son was miserable in school, had a really
well, the whole world is homeschooling now.
Yes, it's fascinating to watch this unfold because when I started, my son's 35, so I started like 20, almost 30 years ago, and we were really raked over the coals for homeschooling. So it's interesting that all of a sudden this is the remedy for everybody.
Well, we did it for a little while right before we sent our youngest to Montessori school. So probably about a year a year and a half or so before all this happened, we had put her in a Montessori school, but we were homeschooling her prior to that. So it's a good community. It's a very trending thing even before the virus, but now of course everybody's getting at least a taste of it.
Yes, yeah. And understanding, just like everything, I think you get a different understanding of what it means. And it's just an eye-opening, and just to another world. But within the home, Two sons, yes, 35 and 30. One lives here very close, and the other one lives in Wyoming.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we ended up homeschooling them all the way through school. And within that capacity, I ended up being an academic advisor for other families homeschooling within the program that I worked for. And then created their consultant training program and
cool.
ended up creating the processes and procedures. This is where my business got its first nibble. I ended up creating all the processes and procedures, so they are the only accredited homeschooling program in the state of Maryland.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
so that's kind of how I started. That was when I realized how much I loved processes and systems.
So you've been kind of teaching sort of too from the get-go, from like
Yes.
out of the gate. That's been sort of a natural draw and a passion for you. So then how did you move in? So did you wait till after your boys graduated high school, or how did you move into your coaching career and your consulting and speaking that you're doing now?
So after they were done homeschooling, I stayed within the homeschooling community for probably about 2 years. And then I was just completely burned out and decided it was time to do something else. At that time, I took about 2 years off just to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And this is about, I guess, maybe 10 years ago now, maybe eight to 10 years ago. Just trying to decide, what was next for me. And my husband's dream had always been to own some kind of fitness business of some sort, because he is a bodybuilder, and we are both outdoorsy, exercise. I'm not an exercisey person. He's an exercisey person, but I'm definitely an very active person.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of his dream. So I thought, well, maybe I'll get my personal training certification. So I did that. And my actual first coaching business was called the Adventure Connection. And at 48, I started a whole bunch of adventure sports. I started rock climbing and road cycling and snowboarding. And it changed how I viewed myself and the years ahead of me. I never really felt old, but it made me look at my aging differently.
You have to know this. I have to tell you this based on this story. So I am 47 and fabulous. And for Mother's Day this weekend, I went kayaking for the first time in my life.
Good for you.
I've been canoeing and whitewater rafting, and I've done some other water sports, but I had never been actually kayaking. I guess I just had some level of intimidation on the concept of, in my mind, you could get flipped over and just be stuck under there and drown forever.
Oh, gotcha.
I know that's not true now, obviously, but in my mind, that's what it was. And so I avoided that sport. I am so sorry. I am addicted. I am so in love with kayaking. I am literally on the hunt for a tandem and a single because I'm buying them. I'm done renting. I rented once and I'm in for life. So I understand what you said. And one of the reasons I wanted to do it for the Mother's Day weekend was because I was like, I want to keep pushing myself to try and do and achieve something new that I wasn't sure that I could do.
Right.
To remove some of those fibbers in your head that tell you can't do things, and I felt powerful and strong, and I have to tell you, my face hurt from grinning the whole time.
That's
at one point I am laughing out loud, and my husband's like, "Is something wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm laughing. I can't stop because I'm just so happy."
Yes.
So it was fantastic.
Congratulations, because that's wonderful.
I get the adventure sports, and I understand when you started to say to believe in yourself in a way that you never had before, or think differently. I get that in a way that you just can't know. Like, I am there because I literally just experienced it. I'm still running off this high.
I love that.
Today, I can't wait to go back to the water.
Excellent.
Like, immediately. And we live 3 minutes from it. So why in the world did I let myself miss this? All my life, I literally can drop a kayak in the water 3 minutes from my house for free if I owned one. Why did I wait this long, Lisa? Why do people do that? Why do we do this to ourselves?
I know.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's perfect.
But oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a kayak junkie. I'm joining all the groups, the clubs, I know where all the places are. I am like,
I love it.
So you started this adventure coaching. Let's back to Lisa. Less adventure. So sorry. And you were doing rock climbing and
I'm not that interesting, so I'm happy to share the story with you. Happy to share the story with you. And I did it exactly for that reason, because I recognized that, in trying new things, especially at that age, It was like, oh, wow, you know what? I'm not old. This is not, I don't have to now take up knitting, or whatever, some grandma. I don't have to get my rocking chair out. I can still be very, very active and learn new physical things. And so that was that was where I kind of dipped my toe into my first coaching program. And that had mixed results, and I know why it didn't do well, and I'm okay with that. Shortly after that, I decided, and this again is like the seed of my current business. I recognized that as an entrepreneur, I was spending too much time by myself and alone. And you're just sitting in this office by yourself, making all these decisions, and you're asking yourself questions about things that you probably should not be answering. You probably should have somebody that knows something more than you do that's giving you the answer. And so I thought, well, I'm going to create a mastermind group. And so I went out looking for women to be in a very small mastermind group with me. And it was wonderful. It took me about 6 months to find, there was 5 of us to begin with. And so I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved that we were supportive for each other in terms of growing our businesses, in terms of growing our communities. Growing communities is really important to me, and it just was such a perfect vehicle that it spoke to my heart. So I did that, and then once I started that, there were 3 women in the group. At that point, I was teaching public speaking. I had just started thinking about, I was exploring for my own benefit. Communication skills. And the 3 of the women asked me if I would start a Toastmasters group for women. And I don't really like to start other people's things. I tend to be a marauder. I go off and do my own thing frequently. But I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And was very successful because I marketed specifically to women who were terrified of public speaking. And it was a women's only group. It's called Voice of a Women. They still meet now. But I had them meet in my house. And from that group, the 3 women that came, we met twice, and we chartered in like 2 months or something. But they said it was still too scary. And so I took them and I said, okay. And I love solving problems. So this to me was a problem that I knew I could fix. So I thought, well, what would be safer than my family room with a bunch of women that they already know? And I thought, well, what would be safer is not my family room, but around a table with no standing up. And the group was really, really small. And so I invited the 3 women, and we had 3 others. So it was a group of 6. And we met around my kitchen table because I wanted it to be as safe. I'm trying to think of what is the most safe environment. And to me, sitting around a table, that's where you share and meals, and you share community. So we sat, and my first meeting with them was, who took your voice away? And that is actually the name of my registered name of my company is Finding Your Voice. And I created out of that a public speaking program for women that are terrified of public speaking. So I think of it as a pre-Toastmasters. Toastmasters, when you go to Toastmasters, your first speaking opportunity is 4 minutes long. And that's way too long if you're terrified of public speaking. 4 minutes might as well be an eternity.
It can feel like a long time up there. Although I've been given 2 hours, and I feel like I have to rush everything.
Oh, I know.
But that's my personality.
You're terrified. 4 minutes feels like 45. So my program starts out with a 30-second. I work on 30-second introductions, and I work on 30-second. Like my thing is going into, let's say you are going into a situation that normally you are tongue-tied. And so for me, because of my history, it's anything that I have to deal with a man. So if I have to deal with a man, I get very tongue-tied. And I suddenly I've got like no head. So my focus was on my own history, where I get like a deer in the headlights. So I thought, let's just focus on how can I organize my thoughts and overcome that paralyzing fear to have 30 seconds come out of my mouth that is really the exact thing I need to say so somebody listens to me. And I can get my message across without rambling or, backsliding or whatever. So that was the beginning of the coaching program that I have now. And it started out with understanding how to really, really focus, whether you're talking verbally, whether you're communicating with speech, whatever it is that you are trying to communicate, how do you get that message really, really focused? And so I ran that program for about 3 years. And you said one of the things you were going to ask me was what was something huge that I overcame. So I ran that program for 3 years. It was moving right where I wanted it to go. I was perched for it to go international. And my mom died and I got very, very sick. And I suffered a concussion all within about 9 months.
Oh my gosh.
And I just shut down. I could not get off the couch is really the best way to describe it. Is I just spent all day, every day on the couch. And I'm up until this point, a highly physical person, just very constantly moving. And it was devastating. It was my whole identity. It really was being active was who I was, especially as a woman in my 50s. Mm-hmm. To be able to say that I was a snowboarder and I was a rock climber and I was a road cycler, and that was like my thing. You know, I'm 55 and these are the things that I do. And to have all of that taken away was really, really challenging. The only thing that I ran during that point was my networking organization, and that was once a month. And it was so exhausting. It was so exhausting to show up, but I felt I had an obligation to the community. So I continued to do that. So that was my big thing to overcome. And it actually took me almost 5 years.
Wow.
To get off the couch.
Wow.
It was a long, I have something that it's similar to fibromyalgia.
How did you get there? How did you?
You know, I was a lot of self-help books because I knew I needed to fix a lot of it I was broken inside, you know, it was baggage. So I have my go-tos that really just totally rocked my world. And I began to respect myself more and speak authentically more and listen to my inner voice and trust that what it was saying was the truth. I disconnected myself from people that did not believe in my truth and did not support me on that journey, which was very hard. And I just kept like every day. There was a lot of times that I just couldn't do anything. But then on the days that I felt good, I would be like, well, you know, what's something new that I can do today, or something a little bit different, or can I be up off the couch for half an hour or whatever? And then finally at about 4 years, I decided that was enough. Like I wasn't doing that anymore. And I decided I could walk. And so I thought I'm going to walk myself well. And fortunately, I live in a beautiful community that we have trails. We have hundreds of miles of trails here. And so I was able to walk, and I just took off walking. And there were days that I would walk 10 miles. I would not, you know, I'd leave at 9 o'clock in the morning and I wouldn't come home until 3:30. And I would just walk to a coffee shop, and then I would walk to somewhere else, and then I would walk somewhere else. And then whatever I had to do. And I did a lot of journaling, a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga. And that pretty much was the real big turning point for me, was just not accepting that I was going to stay in that place anymore, you know, that I had done the work.
So you got to this place where you felt like you could face some more challenges. So what was the switch that moved you to this? Okay, now I have this company and I'm going to write a book and I'm going to speak again. And how did you get from there to there?
Surprisingly, I did a lot of training in mindfulness. And so it really helped shift my mindset.
So a lot you have taken in your life, what you needed at the moment for yourself, and then turn that into something you were studying and training to improve yourself. And then as you were studying and learning, in order to be a master at it, you began teaching it.
Absolutely.
So that's very cool. And I think that's awesome. Have you been able, just from a personal note, if you're able to share, have you been able to get back to some of the things that you love as far as
physically? I will never snowboard again because I had a concussion, and it was a very serious concussion, and at my age I don't feel it's safe for me to risk that, and there's a pretty high risk of falling,
right,
in snowboarding, and so, but I miss it terribly. I tried road cycling last year, which I miss again terribly, and my body was not ready for it, so that was kind of hard. I am able to ride I ride like a cruiser. We ride cruiser bikes all over the place, so I am able to ride, but I love my road bike, and I really hope to get back to that. I do not physically, I would not be able to rock climb, and I don't know that I'll be able to I won't say never, but I'm not seeing that in my horizon.
Mhm.
But so it was about 2 years ago that I thought I went to, I flew out and did my yoga certification out in Wyoming. And that was a huge, huge obstacle and a huge life lesson.
And a
Um,
huge win because you
that
did
was
it.
absolutely that. Well, that was the whole point. The whole point was I did it. And it was hard and it was ugly, was really, really ugly. But the sense of accomplishment of, okay, I can do this. It just, for me, my biggest obstacle is expectation.
Mm.
And it's a huge block for me. So going out and thinking it has to be big, it has to be perfect, it has to be a 10 plus.
I had been there, and I have one of the tactics I've had to implement as my business is growing, and I'm at the point where you were in the beginning, where it's starting to go international, and I'm starting to do all these things, and all these doors are opening up, and it's really starting to scale. I've had to give my self permission. I have to just remind myself probably many, many, many times a day, because I'm a little OCD. This is stage one. This is stage one of this. Stage two will be better. And and you know, and these may go to stage 100. I don't know, based on my level of decision of perfection on this and how far I am from it. But it's been giving me permission to keep moving forward and moving forward and moving forward,
Right.
and doing and doing and doing and implementing and opening and making it open to the public, even though it's just in stage one. It's not very
Right.
good.
Right.
Which really bothers me. But
Oh
I
my
have
gosh,
to
yes.
get out of my own way and say, you know what? Yes, it really, I've like acknowledged that person in me. Yes, we understand this bothers you. However, the rest of us are going to keep moving this forward, and we
Right.
promise that we'll get it where you want it to be. I know
Right.
I'm talking to myself here. This sounds a little
Right.
nuts, but it's how I've had to deal with
Yes.
that, with just what you're talking about.
Yes. Yes. So it's just accepting, can I accept and love who I am in this moment as I show up?
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I can stay in that place, I can keep moving forward. As soon as I look a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever it is, as soon as I'm not looking in this moment, I'm overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really, really important for me to stay in this moment. I have to be present, or I get very easily overwhelmed. So it was with all that. And then I trained in what's called MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. And that's right now they're out of the University of Brown Mindfulness Center. And that's been around for about 40 years, but it's a mindfulness program to overcome anxiety and stress, and along with pain, chronic pain. But so those have actually allowed me to be in a different place where I can just show up as me, and whatever shows up is whatever shows up.
So I still am not 100. So we took the yoga, we took the mindfulness, and so still don't know exactly how you are where you are now, which
But
is
the connection.
the successful podcast, an author, an established speaker, running workshops and programs. Like how do we
Where's the
take
leap?
steps 2 years ago for that? Now you have this solid base and this thriving business. Tell us how we got there.
So that 2 years ago, I decided I felt well enough to try regular networking again. So I joined a BNI, a business networking international organization, which was a huge stretch for me, just a huge stretch for me. And at that point, I thought, based on the limited energy that I have, if I am going to launch my business, what is the sweet spot for me that I can work at the level that I show up every day, whatever that level is, and still move forward. And so I looked at all of the things that I'd done. I looked at the Adventure Connection. I looked at the public speaking program. I love teaching. I just looked at all of it, and I thought about what is the thing that drains me the less, because I love all of it. I love all of it. What is the thing that does not sap me from energy, because I cannot do anything that saps my energy at that point. So it either has to be a neutral or it has to be a plus. And what I came up with was the masterminds. That hosting masterminds, I love creating community. I love putting women together to help each other and support each other. I love doing anything that helps women shine and be their best selves. And I can see 6 people at my masterminds are smaller, so I can see 6 people at the same time that I would coach one person one-on-one. So I get to do 6 people at one time. And so that was how I launched my business. And I decided that business coaching would be what I would go forward with, because I used all the other things. And at that time, I thought in order to really demonstrate my proficiency and that I had a system and that I knew what I was talking about, the best way to do that would be a book. And so I joined the BNI and I committed to writing a book. And that was how I launched this part of my business, with that plan of, okay, I have a system, I have a process, I know what it is. Now it's my job to go out and, be the town crier and talk about it.
And when did the book release?
Well, the book was supposed to release in 6 months. My health prevented me from getting it off when I wanted it to. I had lots of stutters and starts. It was released Christmas Eve Day, 2019.
Oh, yeah. So it's fresh off the presses pretty much.
Very new. Yes.
Very new. What's the name of the book?
It's called A List Is Not Enough, A Modern Woman's Guide to Better Goal Setting, Time Management, and Productivity.
And so is that a separate, so you have these masterminds where you're helping women to kind of be I guess, each other's board on some level, right? They're that support from a business development standpoint. And then are you still doing the program to help women speak? And
no, I'm not.
Okay.
No. I currently, so how that incorporates into my business now is helping women do presentations, for example. So during the course of a mastermind, I will give people tips on what does a good presentation look like? What do you need to get that point across and to capture the people that are your people, to get you to sign up after you do a presentation? I talk a lot about your marketing message, your voice of your business. So I kind of use the tools that I learned through that experience and that journey in terms of giving women a voice in their businesses.
Okay, so right now, for people watching, and thank you everyone who's watching, to work with you, they can buy your book,
Yep.
Hire you to speak, and tell us what else. Work with you.
I do one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
I had 2 masterminds getting ready to launch right when COVID hit, so neither one of those took off. So I will be looking. I won't commit, but in the very near future, I will be looking to collect people to run to do online masterminds for women.
And that'll be on your website. And we'll make sure anyone watching this video knows that in the description, once this live has processed, we'll be adding to the description all the details to contact you. This video will also be, potentially you're watching this from inside the LinkedIn article that will be developed later, and all that information will be in that article. So they'll always be able to find how to find you. So you'll have those next coming opportunities on your site. Yeah. I just wanted to get them an idea of what does it look like to work with Lisa and how do I make that happen?
Yeah, so right now it's through masterminds and one-on-one coaching. Okay. Probably by the fall, I will be launching an independent program where you can, I'll do a webinar, and then people will be able to buy, and it's called Passion to Prosperity Business Launch Program. Mm-hmm. So it will be for people who are trying to get their business, whether it's hobbling along, whether they've had it for a couple of years and it hasn't taken off, or whether they're starting something new. It is that ability to get that business up and running.
Sure.
And I wanted to mention also, my podcast is actually co-produced with my husband. So it's the 2 of us. It's a very short, only 15-minute podcast. It's just one thing, because we talk about the one thing you can do in certain areas, whether it's promoting better health, better mindfulness, better fitness, the one thing you can do to change your life, that are these small life hacks.
Very cool. Very cool. So the other big reason Profound Professional even exists is because I wanted to feature not just leaders in their industry and people who have developed knowledge over the years and really have something great to share with the world, but I also wanted to feature people who are doing something great in the community or in the world at large. So can you share with us something outside of business and world? And I know the sports are part of that, but from a cause standpoint, what is something that makes your heart sing?
We support a cause, my community, which is Ms. Biz Networking. We support an organization called Pack a Purse, and I love this program. The original idea came from a young lady who was only in her early teens, 13, 14, middle school age. And her mom, who is Nikki Sander, is a social worker. And Jemai, who is her daughter, witnessed kids being taken from their homes and noticed that their belongings, they were given black trash bags to put their belongings in that they could take with them. And it really was very upsetting to her. And she said, "Mom, what can we do to make this better?" Together, they came up with this idea of packing purses and backpacks for teen girls in the foster care and group home system with personal care items, so that they had something that was special for them, that was something bigger than, we try not to give them little tiny try to give them bigger purses. And they are distributed then throughout the Baltimore, Washington, D.C., all the way down up into almost into Delaware and down into Northern Virginia, to homes and areas that are in contact with these young teenage girls, just letting them know that somebody cares. So every year in November, my organization supports the Pack-A-Purse, which is Nikki and Jemai's program. It's not mine. We support their program by collecting purses in the community and collecting personal care products. So shampoo, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, whatever, and filling the purses. And then we get them to Nikki, and then she takes them around, usually early December. She drives them all over. The last 2 years, my organization has collected 450 purses, and we've filled over 300. And altogether, she has been able to collect and distribute about 1,000 purses.
Awesome. That's awesome. And we'll make sure you have some of the links and the ways we can support this cause, and we'll make sure all of that is there also. That is just so fantastic. I want to take the time to thank everyone who has been with us, and all of those who are watching the replay and that show their love with action by sharing, and commenting.
Yes.
And subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course. But before we say goodbye and wrap up for our show for the day, I wanted to ask if you would share one final thing with our watchers. So something that has been impactful for you, a quote, a book, something that you do daily, something that's been kind of transformative and impacting for you, that would really help, something you'd love to share.
Something that is hugely impactful for me. It's really a part of my coaching because of its impact on me, and I see it impact on all the women that I work with, is stop and celebrate what you do.
I love that.
You know, I don't care if it's some days, and this is how it came about for me. You know, some days it was getting out of bed. You know, just to get myself out of bed was a celebration, and to not think, well, that's no big deal. It is a big deal. Some days just showing up is a big deal. And I think the more you can give yourself credit for all those little things, life becomes so much more rewarding and so much more joy-filled.
Mm-hmm.
Just from stopping and celebrating all the times that you show up and you do whatever it is. Like, we think we can't celebrate unless it's, you know, like, oh, I wrote a book. No, you know.
That's a big celebration. That's at least a week long, because it took you at least a year to write it sometimes.
Right. You know, you can please take the time to celebrate all those little tiny successes of sticking to something, of showing up, of being there for someone, of being there for yourself.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I just love being a part of the networking group that's in my region for women, is called Dream Queen. I don't run it. I'm just a part of it, and I attend. But I learned that I got the permission to learn that it was okay to celebrate.
Yes,
that's exactly it. I often feel like, oh, this is bragging, and I don't want to brag. But in the right environment and in the right circumstances and with the right people who are cheering you on, celebrating is really empowering, and it
very
really makes you feel strong. Yeah,
very transformative.
Really good. So great. One last thing. So thank you again so much, Lisa, for being with me and sharing all your wonderful things.
Thank you so much for hosting me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. So until the next Profound Professionals, everyone, stay tuned, keep coming back, share with your friends, and be well and be safe. And I'm Jessica Koch with Jessica Koch Consulting. We'll see you the next time on Profound Professionals. Bye, Lisa. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.